Om. Let's begin by paying our respects to Maharishi Vedavyasa. Narayanam namaskritya naranchaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet vyasam vasishtanaptaram sakte pautram akalmasham Parasharatmajam vande sukatatam taponidhim Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanitaye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sarvopanishado Gavo Dokta Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Duktam Geetam Mridam Mahat. Namaste to all of you. We are going to look at yet another wonderful incident in the life of young Krishna. Now, before we commence this series, we had already given some guidelines as how we should look and approach at all these stories in Bhagavatam. So, we have the Nirguna Nirakara Parabrahmam. We cannot even begin to explore or understand its magnitude. So what we do is, all we can do is meditate. Rishis have tried their best to put a ladder there, but they still can't explain. Vedas have failed and they have reduced themselves to mere pointers. So we are not going to talk about that aspect of Bhagavan. Then we have the Sakuna Rupa of that same Parabrahmam, and we worship him as Bhagavan. But again, the magnitude is so big, so all we can do is look at Bhagavan and our mind dissolves into bhakti. Then we have the avatara aspect of Bhagavan. And as we saw last week, the avatara aspects of Bhagavan's Leela are very difficult for a normal person to digest. So, it is very difficult. Like some of the questions that come, like how is Krishna marrying so many people? How is Krishna able to drink poison? How is Krishna able to dance on a snake? So many things, questions come. And since our mind is not yet clarified or purified, we cannot relate with these instances. So we are going to cast aside all the Leela avatars from a bhakti perspective, from an avatara perspective, from that Saguna Brahman perspective, and obviously from the Nirguna Nirakara Parabrahmam perspective. What we are going to do is look at Bhagavan as a human being. In this way, we are going to make an effort and try to connect with him. Because though we may not be the best of human beings, though we are not in the league of, say, Harichandra or some of these rishis, nonetheless we are also human beings. So if I can elevate myself with a lot of effort, I can elevate myself to the level of an advanced seeker. So now that I am able to connect with that Bhagavan, I am able to connect with him as a advanced spiritual being. Now my mind can open up to the avatara. Now my mind can understand the bhakti aspects. Now my mind can be trained to look at meditation or any other advanced paths. So that being the backdrop, we are going to look at two incidents of Bhagavan Krishna, and we are going to walk through this entire program, the story, and then towards the end what we are going to do is we are going to focus on some takeaways, what it means for us. So I do this in two different formats typically, sometimes embedding the takeaway as a part of the story. Sometimes I try to put it as a separate, like a afterthought, like an afterword. We do an analysis on it. Now, for the sake of these practical Krishna stories, we will do first the story so that we don't break out of that rasa that we can enjoy about thinking about Krishna. And then once we have understood the story, we will take that vision and we will focus on how to apply it in our lives. Okay. With that in mind, let's travel with me back to the time when Krishna was in Mathura. Okay. I will take you to a time when Krishna had killed Kamsa. And then what happened was Krishna and Balarama, till that time they didn't have their Upanayana done. So remember, there was Garga Maharishi who was the one who named Krishna as Krishna. Remember, Vasudeva had sent Garga Maharishi, his Kulaguru, to go and name Krishna at Nanda and Yashoda's place. The same Garga Maharishi does the Upanayana. Then they figure out, oops, this child needs some training. So they found the best guru for the child at that time, who was living in Avanti, in today's Madhya Pradesh, right? Avanti. And they found a guru called Sandipani. And they said, go and learn. But Krishna and Balarama are avatars. They said, like, you know what? We need to stay there and learn everything. So they just stayed 64 days for the 64 arts. Every day he learned one art and mastered it. Now there are a couple of quick takeaways here. You could be an avatara, but still you need that initiation from a guru. That is what Bhagavan is kind of highlighting here. Now when he came back, Krishna had two important thoughts in his mind. There are two of them. The very first one he had on the top of his mind was, you remember that when Akrura had come and told that Kamsa Mama wants to see Krishna, so he had taken Krishna away. The gopis were immersed in deep sorrow. Nanda and Yashoda were beyond consolation. And Krishna said, let us find a guy who will match this mission's needs. So we'll come back and analyze it, so we'll just go with the flow. So he found amongst the Vrishnis, he found the best person there, who was mentored by none other than Devaguru Brahaspati. His name was Uddhava. He was a minister, he was a beloved friend, and an outstanding devotee of Krishna. And he is the last person. See, look at the greatness of Uddhava. Because of Uddhava, we got Uddhava Gita. Those were the final words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So, we get this ultimate Moksha Shastra, what we also call as Uddhava Gita or Moksha Gita, and that is named after the student. See, Bhagavad Gita, both are basically Bhagavad Gita only, both are Bhagavan Uvacha only. But here it is so great that Bhagavan said, you know what, this student is many notches higher. Understand, Arjuna was focused, confused that he could not do his duty, so Bhagavan gave that Bhagavad Gita for helping him do the duty. But Uddhava was many notches higher. So Bhagavan said, what does he want? He wants only moksha. So Bhagavan focused only on moksha. Anyway, so the words which Bhagavan uses here are amazing. He says, Vrishninam pravaro mantri krishnasya daitaha saha Sishyo Brahaspate Sakshat Uddhavo Buddhi Sattama. Basically, what he is saying is, there is no one more beloved to Krishna. There is no bigger disciple than Uddhava. Now, there is something very special about Uddhava. Ever since he came in contact with Krishna, he would eat only what is left after Krishna had eaten whatever is left. Whatever was Sesha, that only he will eat. If Krishna discards some clothes, that is the clothes he will use. That was his bhakti. Well, we can only aspire that we also be blessed with such kind of great bhakti. So what Krishna did was, he said, I got you my very first mission. He said, I had to leave Gokula and the gopis in a rush. Remember, Bhagavan, in an earlier context, we did see the importance of how to remain detached. And Bhagavan is not attached to even the gopis, the highest epitome of bhakti. He is teaching them how to detach. So here, this is the one place where in Bhagavatam we find something very special. Remember, today's topic is how Krishna is caring for others. Right? It doesn't mean in other places Krishna is not caring. But here we are taking the very first mission of Krishna once he stepped out of Gokula. So what happened? Our Uddhava said, okay Krishna, you want me to go to Gokula, I will go. So he took a chariot. He reached Vraja around evening, around sunset. And close your eyes and visualize what is happening in this beautiful narration. And when he went there, Nanda Maharaj was able to understand who it was, what was the mission. So all they could understand was, they are still grieving from the separation of Krishna, and Yashoda Maya was so moved. Remember, when Bhagavan wanted to show even the highest nature to Yashoda, even when he was a child, Yashoda was not interested. She said, I want only that Matrutva Bhava, that special feeling. So, no need to even highlight how much Nanda and Yashoda were feeling. So, Uddhava came and he was an advanced Bhakta. So he started talking about Bhagavan's avatara, Bhagavan as an Ishvara, Bhagavan as a Parabrahman. So he started talking about Krishna's those aspects, and all night they were talking. Because who would not want to keep talking about the wonderful Leelas of Bhagavan Krishna? This is just, imagine, this is the peak of Krishna's Bala Leela, right? So morning, one gopi came and she saw this nice gleaming golden chariot. So they thought, the earlier one chariot came, the irony of naming this fellow Akrura, the there is the irony there that's not lost. Krura means one who is cruel. Akrura means one who is not cruel. So in the gopis' minds, the most cruel person in the universe was not some Rakshasa, Kamsa and all. It was Akrura. Because he took Bhagavan away from them. And they knew this is a one-way ticket, Bhagavan is never going to come back. But they thought it was Akrura, but it looked like someone very similar to Krishna. From distance, it looks like this fellow is wearing Krishna's clothes. From distance, it looks like this fellow is also like Kala, like Krishna only. And then they didn't understand. They are like wondering who this fellow is. And then they understood, okay, this fellow has come as an emissary from Krishna. Now, when they came to know that all the gopis came from different corners and they started pouring their heart. Oh, do you know how much difficult it is to even hold the life without Krishna? Then all the gopis burst into, one of the gopis starts and then all the other gopis start belting out a wonderful poetry and their heartfelt devotion in the form of Brahmara Gita. They say, just like one bee, Brahmara means bee, right? One bee that comes to a nice flower full of nectar. After it is so contented and taken all the nectar out, the bee decides to leave that flower and go. Just like that, Krishna has left us. We know that he is. So this kind of highest viraha tapa can be understood only by a person with bhakti, not by these kind of idiots who are nowadays taking this bhakti and twisting it and giving a physical or a sexual orientation. Such dirty minds can never understand this highest form of bhakti. Now Uddhava came there, he understood that the highest form of bhakti, he thought he was a big bhakta. He had only few days contact, but he thought he was the biggest bhakta. And he thought he was a special messenger for Krishna. But little did he understand that the gopis were meant for curing his Brahma. He understood that the gopis were PhD in bhakti and he was not even in LKG. Then he starts telling about Bhagavan and how Bhagavan is in different places. Bhagavan is in not only in the Panchamaha Bhutas, he is not only in your Manas, he is not in only the Indriyas and the Gunas, he is Sarvavyapi. He is there everywhere. Now, for those who are interested, there is an article that is pinned on the top. You can go and look at the references of those Bhagavata slokas that would probably take this experience to a different level. Now, what happens? Uddhava is telling Krishna's words. He is only parroting. He is not advising. He is only parroting Krishna's words. Krishna tells them that the gopis must control their manas and their indriyas in accordance of Vedas. And then depending on their inclination, they can take different paths like yoga, sankhya, sannyasa, tyaga, tapas, etc. Like sense control, satyam. All these different words, all these different paths are going to lead only to the same location. So Bhagavan has said, Etad anantaha samanyayo yoga sankyam manishinam tyagas tapo dhamas satyam samudranta ivapaga. That means ivapaga means apaga means like river, like all rivers going to samudra ananta iva apagaha, like rivers flowing into a ocean. All these different paths will lead you only there. So Bhagavan Krishna wanted to tell these people how to master that technique. So far the gopis had mastered the highest form of Sakuna Brahman. All these rishis in the form of gopis had already tasted the highest in the form of Sakuna Brahman. Now Bhagavan wanted them to go beyond this Sakuna Brahman and master the next level where Bhagavan is formless, that Nirakara Rupa. So he wanted these followers to evolve, and he assured them he was spiritually connected with all of them. And he suggested that if somebody is in deep love with another person and if there is a separation, what happens? The fondness grows in absence, right? In real love it happens, not in superficial love. Now Krishna was again and again concerned about these gopis' sadhana. Now that should give us a clear understanding that Krishna did not use these gopis and then run away. Although Krishna sets two conflicting messages to us, that even these highest bhaktas he is kind of abandoning, but only for their good. The same thing happens in the very, very final stage when Uddhava says, Bhagavan, you are going to Vaikunta, please take me there. Bhagavan says, no, your mission is not done. You have to work on it yourself and you have to come. Then he asks what are the methods, and that's when we get that Uddhava Gita. So, even that last step Bhagavan wants us to master. And then the gopis are overwhelmed by the grace of Krishna, that Krishna would come back with the message, though not in person. They would have loved to see Krishna in person, but they are never separated from Krishna because non-stop they are thinking only about Krishna. So such advanced bhaktas, and then what happened? The gopis were feeling like they are missing Krishna so much. So Uddhava thought maybe I'll stay here few more months. So he stayed there few more months, and they were talking every day, morning to evening. What they are talking? They are only doing satsanga. 24/7 they are talking. Krishna went and did this thing here. Krishna did that leela there. So they take Uddhava to different corners of the different places in the Vrindavan, Gokula region, and they show every single thing and they reenact it and they kind of relive through those wonderful leelas. And just by listening to this, our heart starts oozing out that Krishna Prema, what the gopis might have felt. So then, when Uddhava's time came, he composed this highest spiritual experience of being with such highest Bhagavadottamas of gopis in the form of 5 slokas, which we normally refer as Pancharatna. And then after staying there with the permission and love of Nanda, Yashoda, Gopis. He brings a lot of gifts. He takes all their messages and he takes all their hearts along with him back to Mathura. So here we conclude our first story. Now the second story we are going to look at is while Uddhava was sent, the minute Uddhava went, Krishna went to Akrura and Akrura was feeling little bit guilty, like that he had to bring Krishna to meet Kamsa and that sort of thing. So at that time, he requested Krishna to come to his house. Krishna said, okay, I'll come. He never came. But one day, using that pretext that he had to go and meet him, so he visited along with Balarama and Uddhava. Just before Uddhava left for that mission, he brought these two, and Akrura was very overjoyed. He gave Argyam, Padyam, he worshipped him with the flowers and sandal paste, and he was very, very, you should also recall that this Akrura was an younger brother of our Vasudeva. So in that sense, and as you recall, Pritha, that is Kunti, is also a sister for Vasudeva. So that way he is related to both. So Krishna wanted to use this thing, and then he gives us how do you get a work done from someone who is much elder to you, who is almost like your father's age. What Krishna did was he came and put all his charm, like uncle, you are the best. I need a favor, and without your help, what will I do? So he started talking nice, sweet words with a big, broad smile, and started telling him how much he valued Akrura. And, like in our Indian parlance, we say like keeping ice, right? So that's exactly, and he was doing it genuinely. He was not doing it with a negative motive. He was not telling lies, but he was, and he told him that Akrura, if there is a well-wisher, Akrura's name would be the first. And then he said he wanted Akrura to go on a special mission. He wanted to go to Hastinapura. See, Krishna did not have done all this lengthy preface. He need not have done all this song and dance. But that is the message for us, to learn how to ask a favor from someone who is elder. Make them feel important, right? So Krishna sent Akrura, and he said he wanted to, and this is the time when the Pandavas had just come back to Hastinapura from the forest after the death of Pandu. Kunti was shocked that Madri also left, and this is the time when a lot of negative partial treatment was happening, because remember, Dhritarashtra was sitting on the throne. He thought Pandu had gone. He did, since Pandu had gone, he was the king, and he thought Duryodhana would be his next in throne. So he was happy. But when these people came, they were subjected to special biased treatment. After all, they are like second-class citizens, right? In the eyes of blind Dhritarashtra, right? Now, this blindness is not because of his physical blindness. He is mentally blind also. Then what happened? An interesting Akrura goes there, and when Akrura goes there, he goes there with an authority, right? He goes there with all the, remember, he is a prominent figure. He is like Vasudeva's brother. So he is also related, everyone knows he is related to Kunti. And he goes there and he stays there for several months. He goes and hangs out with Kunti and he tells, don't worry. And Kunti is very, very worried about her children's safety. Remember, these are the early days. Kunti is very, very astute lady. She's seen through and through the intentions and the bias and prejudice of Dhritarashtra and the evil actions of the young Duryodhana. So she was wondering how can she protect her children. That was her only thing. When Akrura came, he came with the message that Bhagavan has already arrived in the form of, remember there was an Akashavani that comes while Kunti Pandus were in their own world, they were not aware of that all these events that were happening the last 10 years in some distant place, right? And they are not that well connected. Remember, they were living in the forest with Pandu and all those things. So Bhagavan has arrived. That was the message Akrura gave to Kunti. But Bhagavan did not say that. Akrura understood that and he said, the avatara has already happened because all Kamsa and his Rakshasas were eliminated. We saw that last week. We saw last week how the different, for those who have not been there, you can always go and look at that namesake YouTube channel and you can listen to last week's lecture. So, the important thing was, Akrura is very interesting person. He could go and mingle with Bhishma, Drona, Vidura and others. At the same time, he could go and talk to Dhritarashtra and say, hey Dhritarashtra, do this, don't do that. He could use that kind of tone. At the same time, he could go to Kunti and say that, don't worry, I'll be there, Krishna is there, Krishna will come and protect you and that sort of thing. Okay. So, the interesting thing is, the very choice of Akrura, who alone fits that role, is really amazing. And then Akrura came and approached Dhritarashtra and it was time for him to come back. Remember, he was staying there few months, assessing the situation, understanding what was happening, and he says, so he thought the best thing to do would be to give advice to our wonderful Dhritarashtra. Now you have to understand, Vidura had already given quite some advice. Even when Duryodhana was born, he said, hey, get rid of this child, it is going to kill your entire clan. He didn't listen. So Bhishma also had given advice. No. Right now Drona was not there. I spoke in error earlier. Drona doesn't come till later. But he was able to mingle with the likes of Bhishma and Vidura and Kripa. So what happened was Dhritarashtra needed some pep talk. So sometimes, like you catch a thief in action and all you have to tell is, hey, don't do that. Maybe there is a small chance that you may be able to stop that person from doing that, right? So our simple Akrura thought that may work. So he told, see, by following dharma alone, you can raise yourself. And remember, you have a responsibility to these young Pandavas. Treat them like your children. Don't treat them like your brother's children who have returned from the forest. And don't keep thinking politics there and say like, hey, they are going to take away my throne and that sort of thing. Don't bring all those things. And also understand, he gives a gentle nudge. He says, you are not going to be living in this body forever, right? Nobody is. And if you are not going to live in this body, all the relationships came only because of this body. Because of this body only you have husband, wife, children, friend, family, everything. So, don't understand that, forget that. And all creatures are only born alone. You are born alone, one day you will go alone. And what will go with you is your karma. Your karma only is the reason why you will wrap yourself with sukha and dukkha. So don't forget that, Dhritarashtra. And also understand, whatever wealth you think you are going to get by doing adharma, by destroying others, that adharma itself will destroy you. And don't be like a foolish person who constantly thinks that you are the body. This Dehatma Buddhi should be given. And when you give up this Dehatma Buddhi, and also your attachment to children and wealth, that is coming because of the wrong understanding. Now, if you don't do that, what will happen is that will push you more and more into adharma. When you are living a life driven by only kama, no connection to dharma, you are going to end up only in ultimate frustration, because the things which you are chasing are not going to last. And Akrura goes on to explain in detail what would be the outcome for such a tamasic mind. The person who is connected to adharma, a person who is only driven by kama and artha, who has no connection to dharma, will find oneself in a self-created tamasic hell. That hell was only created by your own actions and your own karma phala. Now, when Akrura was talking like this, understand, Akrura was not pointing fingers. He was only giving these kind of advanced thoughts. He didn't say, you are doing this, you are doing that. Look at the diplomacy. Right? So that is the diplomacy. Like when America comes and wags fingers, when we send one dummy Dalip Singh back to India, the idiot was wagging his finger as if like he was a big shot. And when India showed the mirror and said like, look, you guys import more oil than us, what are you even talking like hypocrites? What happened is you don't have any defense. So diplomacy is a very, very wonderful art. Sometimes you have to know where to use strong words. Sometimes you need to know where to use sweet words. Like few days ago, one of the European country, couple of days ago, they said, hey, India, Ukraine. Our folks said, hey, why don't you guys stop giving us advice what we should be doing, just run your own country. So, diplomacy is a very delicate art, and Akrura is a great example of how you should do it correctly. And then there is a beautiful simile that is given in Bhagavatam. Very, very beautiful. See, Dhritarashtra was able to absorb all this wisdom, but his mind is covered with so much tamas and so much attachment for his children and his position. Bhagavatam is saying that just like a lightning cannot permanently sit inside a cloud, right? All this knowledge went in one ear, went out in the other ear. That's it. Look at the beauty of this analogy. Just like lightning can't permanently sit in a cloud, right? Permanently reside in a cloud. Then he came back. This is the beauty. There are two important things that come out about Dhritarashtra here. First thing is, he says, now this one will strike home very closer. There is a tinge of Dhritarashtra in all of us, right? So, we have to be aware of this. He said, what can I do? This is all Ishvara's fate. he had written it, this Bhagya in my head, and I know, you know what, I can't do anything. I don't know. I'm just a puppet in his hands. And then he says, hey, I know Krishna is an avatara. Look at it, how early Dhritarashtra knows about Krishna avatara. He says, I know Krishna is an avatara. Why? Because you cannot take down our Kamsa Mama or all those Rakshasas who are siding him, right? So, I know Krishna is an avatara. And he has come for reducing this Bhubhara. Right? And then he says, let me pay my respects to that Parameshwara, who is creating and sustaining this entire prapancha through his wonderful Maya. Look at this. This is again the diplomacy at its negative worst. It's another way of saying all your advice came, but it just went away. So Akrura now came back to Mathura, having done his mission, that he went to console Kunti. He went to give a piece of advice to, as Krishna's words, to Dhritarashtra. And Krishna and Balarama were updated of this wonderful mission. Now let's, as promised, we are going to analyze this and bring this story back to our life. What is the point of all this story if we don't bring it back to our life? So this is a practical Krishna series, right? So we have to focus on those lessons which we can apply in our life. So the first message what we can, or a bullet point what we can look at is, see, there are people all around us who are dependent on us, right? Now, let's start with our own selfish self, right? Who are the people who are, let's start with just ourselves. Is our body requiring some, we have to take care of it, we have to feed it properly, give sleep properly, rest properly, exercise properly, do all the things at the right time? We have to. We don't. Otherwise, then how will the dependent mind do its work? Because the body alone cannot do the work. The mind also needs to be there. Then buddhi also has to be kept in proper shape. So we are, even if you are a loner, living all alone and you are not taking care of others, you still are going to take care of the welfare of all the dependent entities. Now, if you are a man or a woman, you may have, let's say, like a husband or wife, children, father, mother, someone. So, what Krishna is doing is, by this wonderful example, he has so many actions and work cut out for him. It is waiting for him. Coming out of Mathura was only the beginning of all the work. Last week we saw how many asuras he had killed. But now only the real work of Krishna Avatara starts. All that was only Bal Leela. So Krishna had to stay focused on that. At the same time, he had appointed two people to go and give that special message for the gopis and Rajavasis, because he knew that his sudden exit was like a shock treatment. And same way, the young Pandavas did not know Bhagavan also, that there was a hope, there is a place, there is some connection. And Kunti was totally distraught. So somebody had to give those bhaktas also some courage and strength. Then look at this interesting choice of, the second point we can look at is, who is the right candidate? Imagine Krishna had switched these people. Let's say that Uddhava goes to, Uddhava is like a similar age to Krishna, maybe a little bit older. And Uddhava goes to Hastinapura. What will happen? Nobody will listen to this small child, not even Kunti, because he doesn't have the clout. And then you send Akrura back to Brajavasis. Oh no, now you are now tempting, testing fate only. Because all the Brajavasis are waiting to thrash that guy. The guy who separated their beloved Krishna and took him permanently away from Braja. Right? So, who is the right person for the mission? That is the first thing. Second thing is, are you preparing that person ahead of time? When Uddhava was going there, Krishna had given the details of the message, what he should expect, what should happen, and same thing with Akrura. He prepared his mind. He told him that this is what you need, these are the actions you need to do, this is what I am expecting. So, are you keeping your teammates aware of what the mission is by giving clear expectation of what needs to happen? So, the important thing we have to focus here is also that Uddhava, look at Uddhava also, was excellent choice because he looked like Krishna, he thought like Krishna, and he was also a devotee of Krishna. So, for one Bhagavata, another Bhagavata Sangha is always going to be more healing. Whereas Akrura is an old hand in diplomacy. He had connections with relationship. He had the maturity to talk what and what not. So, he was able to talk to Dhritarashtra without poking his ego. He didn't say like, you stupid Dhritarashtra, you are a fool. What would have happened? Immediately you would have started showing his darker side, right? And he would have started putting his defenses and it would have become a predicament. But now, he is like wondering, that Kamsa is gone, but Mathura seems to be a very strong place now. This Krishna is there. So, let's be cautious. No, I know that Duryodhana is crossing the line, but 10 times he crosses, at least one time we will tell him to go slow. Let that bhaya and thought about Bhagavan regulate and guide. That was the thought. Then the other thing what we understand here is think long term. Krishna is thinking long term. The Pandavas did not even know who Krishna was. They first meet Krishna only in Draupadi Swayamvara. Till that time, they are living in a very dangerous world. So, what is protecting them? Only Bhagavan Nama. Bhagavan Nama is protecting them even when Bhagavan is not around. Very important message for all of us. And also, Krishna's focus is all round. He is looking about their dharma, artha, kama. Of course, moksha they need to do. So, some of these seeds have to be thought long term. In our own life, if we want, let's say for example, we want to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds, then we cannot start on a crazy diet for 2 weeks and then the mind will revolt and then you will end up getting another 10 pounds. So, you have to think long term by slowly raising your awareness, studying things, putting yourself in an environment to succeed. So, you have to plan long term. That's the lesson we are getting from Krishna. Then the important thing is you have to pick your team and that every team member should get a benefit. Now, Akrura went to Hastinapura. What is the benefit for him? He saw his sister. He saw their children. He is equally concerned about the welfare. And he was made to feel important by Krishna that he went on a delegation. So, he went there as an ambassador but as a family. So, he got a benefit. What is the benefit Uddhava got? Uddhava was an excellent jnani. He was the student of Brihaspati himself. But his jnana had overtaken his bhakti. And Bhagavan thought how to give him a bhakti 101 class. So Bhagavan said, go to the advanced bhaktas of gopis. Now Krishna wanted to give some of the jnana and transfer that from Uddhava to the gopis. And Krishna wanted to Uddhava to learn bhakti from the gopis. So what happened? That each other they are beneficial. So we have to focus on when if you are putting together a team, okay, I need this job done, you do this. You bark an order to someone, maybe you even explain the importance. But are you making it important for that person to learn and evolve? Can that person get any practical benefit from it? And if so, are you highlighting it enough? That's very important. The next point is, we already saw this a little bit, that we want to be a hope giver. Wherever you go, spread the word of hope. You say that when there is Kali Yuga's effects everywhere, tell them, hey, even in this Kali Yuga, you can protect yourself and create your own personal Satya Yuga oasis. Bhagavatam tells these are the things you should do. Leave the person with a hope. Now we cannot expect, okay, there will be Krishna Avatara coming. We can't keep telling those sort of things like that when we ourselves don't know. Giving hope is not a peddling falsity. Giving hope, the person has to feel that genuineness. And it is the genuineness of your conviction that gets transferred to the other person as hope. So if you are not convicted, how can you transfer that as a hope? Let's have that question to ourselves in not only bhakti, but in every single aspect. The other thing is, see, when a person is tamasic, you should not give up hope on them and say like you are a gone case. See, Krishna has been chipping the real war, Mahabharata war, is not between Kauravas and Pandavas as most of us believe. The real war and the only war was between Dhritarashtra and Krishna, the two non-combatants. Krishna was focused on dharma and Dhritarashtra was inventing reasons to follow adharma due to his tamas, due to his attachment. So Krishna sends the first arrow to say, as a warning shot, in the form of Akrura, and says, hey, don't succumb to tamas. You can come. And Dhritarashtra himself says, hey, this is Bhagavan, this is Avatara, all those things he is having. But yet, he is not able to overcome that. So it is important that we keep working on, look at it from our perspective. How many of us have had some noble goals and we fail 99% of the time? The reason when we fail is when we need that support for our mind to tell, hey, don't worry about the failure, use that as a stepping stone. Let's focus on that, transforming our gunas from tamas to sattva. Let's add some more variables in our own favor, like satsanga, maybe some study some scriptures regularly. Let's start doing some sadhana. So when we start adding these variables, we start getting stronger and stronger. So if we failed 9 out of 10 times, next time our goal may be eventually to become 8 out of 10 times. Or eventually it may be 7 out of 10 times. So that's how we keep taking the battle back to the negative vasanas, the negative forces that operate in our mind. The another data point to consider for us is you have to understand the problem before you want to solve. So Krishna did not, just like he came to Mathura, he didn't say like, okay, next problem to solve, next on the list, okay, Hastinapura, let's go there. No, he didn't do that. He said, I am going to observe from a distance, not too far, not too close. And he had his own network. He had a focus. He wanted to understand what was the mindset of Dhritarashtra. When someone like Akrura is able to talk to him, he is not only talking to him, he is also gauging him. He is studying his facial expression. He is studying his response. He is understanding in between the lines. So, when we have a problem, whatever problem, whether it is family problem, money problem, any problem you are trying to solve, you are trying to understand the problem and you have to rise above the mindset of that problem. See, the mind that is on the same level as the problem cannot solve the problem. It has to rise above that. So for that you need to know what is the level of that problem. What is the magnitude of that problem. So when you integrate these small messages and hints of Krishna into your life, our life transforms rapidly, not only on the spiritual sense, but every other aspect, even in the elements of dharma, artha and kama also, not only towards bhakti or jnana, that sort of aspects. Then the important other message we are talking about is about spirituality is a journey. It's not a destination. And we will always have someone who will come in as a guide, someone who will help us to go to the next level. See, in Sanatana Dharma, many people are saying, hey, how do I find a guru? I will have to go and find a guru. This guru is good, that guru is bad. We are now chasing this guru, that guru. You don't have to chase any guru. You focus on fixing your gunas. Focus on fixing your adhikara. When you are focused on fixing your adhikara, then what happens? Bhagavan will send a person to match your caliber and take you to the next level. Right? Bhagavan will do that. See, even in Krishna's life itself, we see Garga Maharishi was first sent by Vasudeva because he knew it was his son. So he would take care. When Vasudeva is taking care of his son, don't you think Bhagavan Krishna will take care of each one of us? But the challenge is we have to put the effort, and they say squeaky wheel gets the oil, gets the grease. So same way, we need to squeak by doing our sadhana and tapasya, by trying to fail more times. Now, not deliberately, you don't have to go and fail. By trying to pick that battle against the vasanas, by trying to develop those good qualities, you are trying your best. And in that process, you may fail. Just like when a small child is learning to walk, or maybe your child is trying to learn bicycle or something, how the father or mother somebody is running behind the child, right? Same way, Bhagavan will send a guide to help you to transition to the next level. And that is a given promise, just like he sent Uddhava even for the highest gopis. He sent a person who could not only take their mind off to the next level, but also who was able to communicate the message of Krishna, how they can actually do the steps. So, even though we are in the same road, but we are not in the same distance. Like there are some roads that are like 2000 miles long. You may be in one end of the road 2000 miles away. We are just starting in this journey. But on the same other end of the road, you find someone advanced sadhakas like the gopis. But even for that advanced sadhaka, Bhagavan is able to send Uddhava. So don't you think we are little bit more special because we are starting at that beginning stage? Bhagavan will guarantee that he will come and protect that, because we are too precious for him, that he will let us keep fighting. But the fight against the vasanas, it is our responsibility. He is not going to do that for us. But he will come and give us guidance. He will probably put you in a satsanga where some tips will be given. Or he will send you to a person who will point you to a certain book, who will say, hey, this book transformed me. Now you may be curious, you may pick that book, you may get the same message. Doesn't matter. So, for us, are we waiting for Uddhava to pop in? Well, if our wait is that, we have a long way to go. But what Bhagavan has done is, he himself has transformed himself. When Uddhava was asking, hey, Krishna, it's too bad that you are going to leave us. What will we do? We are used to seeing you and feeling you, all that. So Bhagavan says, I will enter into this Bhagavatam, and every time you connect yourself with Bhagavatam, you can feel me. So what is happening for all of you, I hope, is that same effect, because we are connecting with Bhagavatam. You are feeling that power of that Bhagavatam. Your brain, your heart should start melting when you are thinking and hearing about that so much depth in one small story. It is not just a Leela Vibhuti and you say, okay, Krishna did this, okay, he sent Uddhava there, he sent Akrura there. But as you keep squeezing this, there is no end to this rasa. So what we need to do is connect to Gitas, Upanishad, Uddhava Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Itihasa Puranas, all the acharyas and their commentaries. Maybe your sampradaya teaches you a certain way. Whichever is connecting to your vasanas, focus on that. And try to be on that road that is going to take you closer and closer to Krishna. If you get thrown off that road, trust me, I have been off that road far more than I have been on the road. And what happens is, every time you get back on the road, Bhagavan is going to say that, hey, I am going to make that stay longer. Because you are trying so hard, I am going to add my extra booster to keep you on track. Now the last thought we want to focus for today from these two stories. What is as a Manushya, we are one notch higher than all the other Pashu, Pakshi, other pranis and other beings, right? Now only because in this Manushya Janma, we are able to use our Manas, our Buddhi, either to go inward or outward. And Bhagavan says, if you start going towards the inner side, and the very first way that you are making that attempt, the outside world is only focused on, your sensory focus is only on Artha and Kama. But the minute your heart starts mellowing down and looking inside and introspecting and thinking about Dharma, now you are looking inside. So Bhagavan's radar now lights up. Hey, here is someone who is turning inwards. He is sitting in the cave of our heart, waiting for us to turn this side. But we are showing our disrespect by just showing our butt to him, and we are saying, no, I am interested in the worldly affairs. So Bhagavan is just waiting for our spiritual aspirations to get stronger. As we start following dharma, those spiritual aspirations get stronger and stronger. So, as you also saw last week, that once the Kamsa and all his minions were taken care, we saw what each of those Rakshasas stood for last week. And that talk is also uploaded on the YouTube channel. Now we are focused on dharma and moksha. So our focus, we have to fight that battle against those Rakshasas that are rearing their ugly head. See, in Krishna Avatara, Krishna could kill them in one swoop. For example, Trinavarta. We drew an analogy of Trinavarta to our passions. In case of Krishna, he is a Yogeshwara, he just could kill him in one go. But we are battling just one Asura forever. Then only we can go to the other Asuras, right? So, how do we know that? First, by understanding the purpose of our life. This Janma we have taken for doing our level best to connect with Bhagavan, and we may fail, it doesn't matter, but we will have to focus, we have to persist. That is the only mission, and you have the only mission, and every time we try to get up, it doesn't matter if we fail a million times. All we have to do is get up the million and first time. Million times you fall. Now, if you are falling face flat on, say, a half a foot of water, you could still drown. You don't believe me? We had one Bollywood actress who died in Middle East couple of years ago, totally drunk, and she drowned in herself because she just drowned in a little water only. So, how do we fail in this spiritual journey? When we fall face flat, when we fall on our face and we refuse to get up, that is the only way you will fail. But if you have the tenacity and you have the temerity, you have the audacity to fight it back one more time, you may fail again, but don't give up that zeal to battle your vasanas, to fight for dharma, to connect yourself with your swadharma. And the more we fight this battle against our vasanas, aligning ourselves consistently with dharma, we are going to come out victorious. Absolutely no second option. Failure is not an option in this case. It is like the example I keep giving, right? If somebody who has never seen a 1983 World Cup, India West Indies finals, I tell you, hey, it is going to be victorious, but you don't know the result. You are saying no. You don't understand how powerful the opponents are. There is no way we can win. But I know it's a foregone conclusion because I know the result. Same way, the ones who are following dharma, the ones who are connecting themselves with Bhagavan, it is a foregone conclusion that all our attempts in the spiritual path will be successful and moksha is guaranteed for all of us. We have to just accept that fact first. Now, once you accept that fact that you are all guaranteed moksha, then you have to look, this vasana asura is coming this way, that pull from the senses is coming this way, these indriyas are pulling me this way. How do I battle? Knowing that victory is on your side, gives you that much ability to fight this better, because this battle is not an easy one to fight. So, I just want to assure all the combatants in this spiritual journey that victory is at hand. Okay? And all we need to do is connect again and again to Shastras, again and again, just like there are so many precious treasures in these two stories we saw. There is the advanced thought of the gopis. We saw in the Brahmara Gita. Uddhava gives those 5 lines, Pancharatna, we spoke of. We also see how Akrura is having his wondrous stuti of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. We also see his powerful advice to Dhritarashtra, basically us only. See, all that Dhritarashtra is one aspect of our own, one of our aspects only. So all these gems are buried in this just two stories of Bhagavata. So don't take Bhagavata or Itihasa Puranas like, okay, they are telling stories and I am done. There is a lot buried in these stories. I encourage all of you to go and reconnect with it. Now, if you can't go and take original Shastras, and that's the small, tool Bhagavan is using me to write some articles, give some talks. It is not that I am doing. This is Bhagavan's grace that is reflecting through this vessel. And with that humility, I can tell, if you are not feeling confident to go directly to Bhagavatam, you can use these resources. So with those thoughts, may Krishna's grace be on us, as it always is. May our thoughts get more refined in Sattvaguna, and may we learn from the wisdom of these two incidents and apply it practically in our day-to-day life. And this Practical Krishna series will continue for a few more episodes, where we will see other aspects and elements of Bhagavan Krishna's grace. With those words, let's conclude this talk for today. Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Sri Rama. And now we can open up to any questions or thoughts related to this topic.